Next on 19 News, it's official. Those were tornadoes that slammed several counties last night. The shock and emotion still raw.
I prayed, I cried, I screamed, I grabbed my will. I thought, okay, do I die today or do I try to get out of this?
And just look at what they did. Homes shoved off their foundations.
Then the house started shaking, so I was grabbing the kids and trying to get them in the basement.
Had to get out. I think you can see the front windows open. Came in fast, and it was over fast.
Plus, 19 investigates why didn't the tornado siren go off in one of the hardest hit towns. 19 News with live team coverage tonight.
Then, heartbreak and outrage. A toddler dies of starvation after his mom ODs. Breaking details on who police arrested.
And the hunt for a Northeast Ohio man who tried to bring a hammer into the U.S. Capitol, then fought with the cop who stopped him. 19 News starts right now.
First, fair, everywhere. 19 News starts now.
Well, Cleveland's most accurate weather team warned us that this dangerous storm was coming, and we were on the air keeping you and your family safe until that threat was over. Thanks for joining us this evening. I'm Brian Duffy.
And I'm Tiffany Tucker. We want to walk you through exactly what happened here. And we begin our live team coverage with Chief Meteorologist Jason Nicholas live in Windham in Portage County. Jason.
Yeah, Tiffany and Brian, cleanup has begun here. A lot of work to do after yesterday's confirmed EF1 tornado. We are here in Windham, about a mile or so up from the center of the village here. Far eastern Portage County, give you an idea, about an hour or so drive out of downtown Cleveland to the south and east. We're between Akron and Youngstown. And when we talk about tornado safety, one of the things we say is stay away from windows. Here's a reason why. This is a board, likely flew through the air last night at 110 miles an hour, could easily go through someone's window, and you don't want to be near windows with tornadoes. I want to show you some video here. This is from Drone 19 earlier today, just to kind of give you an aerial view of what happened here earlier today. And you can see the extensive damage right here along Main Street. This is actually Main Street, believe it or not. We're just north of the Turnpike, and you can see the devastation. Many of these homes really tough to even rebuild. There's a couple that likely are total losses here. So significant damage from this tornado, and there's a bird's eye view from Drone 19. Now, when we talk about the details of this particular tornado in eastern Portage County, the Weather Service was out here today and declared it EF1 damage. They look at the damage that was left behind from this. They don't necessarily talk about, well, let's look at the radar, what was happening here, we can estimate it. They do a little bit of that, but for the most part, you have to look at the damage that the particular storm did inflict on a community. And in this particular case, winds at 110. So it was almost an EF2 on that scale. We also had an EF0, same system, over in Champion Township. That's about 10 miles to our north and east. That's in Trumbull County. A little bit of a weaker tornado, but again, damage out in Champion as well. So thankful that nobody was injured here. No serious injuries. They heeded the warning advice, and some people weren't even home. So that is great to hear. You hate to see all the rebuilding that has to be done, but hey, we can do that. Great weather today, much quieter. Temperatures in the 60s. First alert Doppler showing, though, some rain coming in from the west. We'll track that overnight, especially into the overnight hours, and then again tomorrow morning before we do dry things out. So hour by hour tonight, we'll start in the 60s and in the 50s with a few clouds, but overall, very nice weather, especially here in eastern Portage County. More from Windham, and we'll talk about your upcoming weekend coming up.
Really stunned survivors probably had a tough time sleeping. It's all kind of sinking in just what a close call this was, Brian.
Really was. We continue our team coverage now with one family story barely making it out alive, and another family's home destroyed when last night's twister hit. It's been there for 170 years.
Our Harry Boomer picks it up from here. Harry.
I'm standing along North Main Street here in Windham. This house over to my right, this huge house, sustained a lot of damage when yesterday's tornado tore through here. So did the house across the street, of course, the barn next to this house where I am right now. There is another house that was actually pushed off of its foundation, and there were terrified people inside when it happened.
Then the house started shaking, so I was grabbing the kids and trying to get them in the basement. So once I opened the basement door and seen all that light, we went to the bathroom then.
Dan Harvey has lived in this house in Wyndham for more than 20 years. What the 68-year-old went through last night was unimaginable. He and two children, a 4-year-old and a 17-year-old, sheltered in their bathroom as the storm blew through. The tornado that tore through here literally pushed his house off its foundation a good 9 feet. It destroyed lots of stuff inside the basement, everything strewn all about because of the high winds. The wind also uprooted a tree, picked it up, and tossed it and Dan's truck about 20 feet across the yard.
And there's debris everywhere.
His son-in-law, Steve Hobart, showed 19 News inside the house.
He heard the big train noise, as everybody says when a tornado comes. And before they really made it even to the bathroom, this window here was shattered out, blew everything everywhere.
Dan and his daughter Heather were shaken by his ordeal.
I couldn't figure out why it was raining in my basement. I got down, I'm like, oh man, now I see it.
Kind of scary. He moved the whole house. Yeah, it's kind of weird. But I had my daughter called me screaming, Mom, the windows are gone. And it was gone.
Well, they're still here.
Yes, they're still here. Everybody made it out safe, even the dog and the cat. So we're all good now.
Actually, the hard work of cleanup is underway. The tornado did a lot of damage to this house and barn on North Main Street and another house across the road. Karen Olson has lived in her home for 45 years. It has stood strong since 1854.
It's totally demolished, and thank goodness I wasn't here when it happened. I came right after. So, and my cat was in there, but we can't find her.
We hope that Karen can find her cat and that it is alive and well. The National Weather Service in Cleveland says that EF1 tornado peaked at 110 miles per hour, traveled about 4 miles, and it cut a swath about 65 yards across as it went across this community and others here in Wyndham. In Portage County, I'm Harry Boomer, 19 News.
All right, Boom, and we continue our storm team coverage in Bucyrus in Crawford County. Ground zero for another twister that touched down, this one an EF1. Trees uprooted, branches snapped, roofs torn off, hundreds of customers without power. A house also shoved off its foundation here by the wicked winds. It goes on and on. It's partially sitting in the driveway now. Alec Thomas's brother lives here. He was in bed when all of a sudden the house shifted.
Thankful that he's okay and his dog's okay. Had to get out. I think you can see the front windows open. He had to climb out through the front. There was a whole front porch there completely gone.
City's fire chief and the county's emergency manager out assessing the damage near downtown. The Family Dollar on Warren Street, that's a total loss. The roof severely damaged, windows blown out. The wind so strong, knocked down a light pole here, ripped up that concrete. The National Weather Service says Ohio is in the active season for tornadoes. More than 24 have already touched down in our state.
And we really continue to hear those terrifying stories of people who somehow, some way survived the tornado. This is going to haunt them for a very long time to come. Some people were in their cars or asleep in bed when the twister roared right through.
I prayed, I cried, I screamed, I grabbed my will. I thought, okay, do I die today or do I try to get out of this?
I was like, I cannot believe I just watched that tree fall, and how did it not hit me? Wind's blowing at me, but it didn't come at me, it just landed on the car, so I'll take that.
I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this actually happened.
I told all my kids, we're alive, and we came out screaming to everybody that we were alive and we made it.
Thankfully, there are no reports of injuries, but there is a lot of cleaning up to do.
All right, now into this. 19 Investigates is uncovering new information in the deaths of a Cleveland toddler and his mom. We now know that Carson Morris died from starvation and extreme dehydration after his mother overdosed in their apartment back in December. The 19-month-old's death has been ruled a homicide, and a suspect is now in custody. The bodies of Carson and 27-year-old Carlia Morris were found during a welfare check on December 16th. According to the medical examiner's office, Carlia died from an accidental overdose. And now facing charges, this man, investigators say, gave her the drugs. 48-year-old Tony Williams of Cleveland was indicted for involuntary manslaughter, heroin trafficking, and corrupting another with drugs. 19 investigates dug into his criminal history and found Williams has more than 24 felony convictions in Cuyahoga County, mostly for drug trafficking and possession. Williams has pleaded not guilty to the new charges and is currently in jail. His attorney sent us a statement saying in part that Williams is innocent and looks forward to his day in court.
Now to a developing story we first told you about this morning. A witness tells us a city worker was shot inside a Cleveland maintenance facility. Police telling 19 News they arrested a suspect. It happened in the Central neighborhood. A 57-year-old man who worked there was shot twice. He's now in the hospital. Police confirm they arrested 39-year-old woman, but they aren't saying if that woman that was caught on camera being rolled out on a stretcher. We aren't saying who she is. As soon as we know more, we'll update you on the 19 News app.
All right, Cleveland's breaking news leader with this. Just in from Washington, D.C., a warrant just issued for a Canton man who police say came to the Capitol with a hammer. Christopher Snow didn't show up for a hearing yesterday, so the judge put out a warrant for the 33-year-old. Last month, Snow went to the Capitol. Police say this was inside his bag. They found the hammer during an X-ray screening and say Snow struggled with an officer and tried to grab back his bag. However, we don't know why Snow was there to begin with.
People in the tornado zone in Portage County thankful they're okay tonight, but stunned the sirens did not sound. The big question now, is it state law? 19 investigates next.
We are live in Portage County in the village of Windham. Last night, an EF1 tornado, winds 110 miles per hour, rolled through here, almost a 4-mile-long path. The cleanup begins. More on your forecast straight ahead.
Live from the 19 News studios, sponsored by Cobella Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. Serving Lake and Geauga counties, this is 19 News.
When severe weather rolls through, you rely on hearing the storm sirens to warn you dangers approaching. Unfortunately, that did not happen in Windham last night.
That's right. But is it required actually by state law for cities to have a working storm siren? 19 investigator Mike Mason went digging for those answers.
An EF1 tornado with winds registering at 110 miles an hour tore a path of destruction through the village of Windham at around 6:45 p.m.
There's roofs gone, a lot of property damage, and a lot of trees down.
And then all of a sudden the rain started going sideways.
The village's emergency sirens somehow failed to operate. No one was hurt, but the damage was extensive. Trees were ripped to shreds, some snapped like toothpicks. A number of homes were destroyed, cars flipped over.
So it may really be strengthening here. And
19 First Alert Chief Meteorologist Jason Nicholas could spot the signs.
Darn it. Yeah, we most likely have a tornado on the ground. This is Windham right here.
19's First Alert weather team breaking into the evening news.
And you want to get to your safe spot immediately.
To warn viewers about the tornado while it was happening.
It's why we broke into programming, because you know what, people's lives were potentially at stake.
19 First Alert meteorologist Erica Page says folks should never rely upon sirens to keep them safe.
And you think of a tornado siren as being this reliable source of information, you know, should a tornado warning be issued. But the problem is you can get a lot of human error potentially in there.
And that's just what happened in Windham. On the village's Facebook page, officials said their joint fire district did attempt to activate the siren. Now they are looking into why it didn't work. In Lodi, sirens failed to activate twice back in March, once during a practice drill and once during a storm. Last August, one of Solon's sirens also failed while the area was under an active tornado warning. That's why Erica says having multiple ways of receiving alerts, such as weather radios, mobile alerts, and keeping your TV on if possible, is always your safest bet.
Because the unfortunate thing is, it's probably going to happen again.
I've seen tornadoes around me, but never was in one. And I don't care to be in another one.
The state's emergency management agency tells 19 Investigates that Ohio doesn't require the use of sirens, and it's up to each local jurisdiction to maintain and operate them if they do choose to have them. Mike Mason, 19 News.
The 19 First Alert forecast, powered by Northeast Factory Direct. Great furniture, amazing prices.
Yeah, quite a night here last night in Windham, and you saw during that story we were on the air at about 6:45, and we saw the data from First Alert Doppler. First was the storm winds did not look good, and then secondly, I believe the clip that they showed there was something we call our debris tracker, which shows where there is debris on the ground. And when you get a signature like that, almost like a bullseye that stands out against everything else, you know you've got most likely a tornado on the ground. Now, I've been to a slew of these over my years in Cleveland, working almost 20 years in Cleveland, and it's always interesting to me when you come out the next day where everything is scattered. For example, there's this tree behind me. You can see there's a bit of insulation on this tree behind me. Where did that insulation come from? It may have come from the house across the street, perhaps even the house just behind it. Also, off to the left there, we've got a huge piece of white material. It looks like it might be from a boat. I looked across the street to find something that maybe it fit to. I really couldn't find anything. It's unlikely that this was from this side of Main Street. So stuff is tossed and turned, and it just, again, shows you never try to go outside and look. We're in that kind of, generation almost where everyone wants to take video or pictures of stuff, and it's just not a good idea because stuff is flying around. Best idea is to get to your safe spot, and I think the folks here for the most part did because we didn't have anybody get hurt. Take a look here. I want to show you some drone video from Drone 19. This is kind of a bird's eye view of what we're dealing with. That road you see there in the middle is Main Street. That's the road I'm about 20 feet from right now. It's about a mile north of the village of Windham here in eastern Portage County. We're about an hour or so south and east of Cleveland, basically right between Akron and Youngstown here, just north of both of those towns, north of the turnpike. You can see all the damage there. Houses, some houses may not even be able to be rebuilt. I know the one behind me cannot. They've already basically condemned it. So when you think about that, when you look at the damage there, just grateful that nobody got hurt. EF1 tornado here, winds at 110, but very close to an EF2. Now, it's possible the Weather Service may upgrade this. We'll see. EF0 tornado just down the street about 10 miles away in Champion. That's in Trumbull County. We were on the air for that one, too. It happened a little bit later. It was the same system, the same cell that blew through. Thankfully, right now, things are a heck of a lot more quiet. Plenty of sunshine. First Alert Doppler showing temperatures mainly in the low to mid 60s. It's great out there. A lot of sunshine today. Good for cleanup efforts. A lot of tree work out here as well. Take a look here. Wider, though, we are tracking eventually from the north and west. We do track that rain and thunder threat coming in. Let's fast forward here, if we could, to our forecast for tonight. If we could hit the hot button back in the studio there, Sam. Temperatures falling into the mid 50s tonight. Oh, we don't have that. That's fine. We ran out of time a little bit. We'll take a look at our 7-day forecast coming up. Yeah, lows tonight in the mid 50s, highs tomorrow in the 60s. More on that 7-day coming up at the end of the show.
Thanks, Jason. Andrew Berry was talking today. As the NFL draft is just around the corner, you will hear from the GM. And the Guardians were at Fenway this afternoon looking to beat down the Bean people. The highlights are yours. Next.
It's the Serpentini Chevrolet Sports Report.
Well, the Guardians were looking to win a 4-game series at Fenway today. They had Carlos Carrasco on the mound, and they swung the bats for him early. We pick up in the third. It was already, they were down 1-0, and then Andres Jimenez gets them even. Base hit to left to bring home Arias, and it was tied at 1. Fourth inning, they get a lead. Josh Naylor punches one into right. Fry comes home to score. 2-1 good guys. Fifth inning, it's Jimenez one more time. Base hit to left. Laureano would score. 3-1 Guardians. Move to the sixth, gets a little dicey. 5-1 good guys. Red Sox get busy. Jaron Duran triples to deep center. That would bring home a pair, and it cut the lead to 5-3. And then, Cade Smith caught a cleat, and a 2-out balk plates Duran. It was 5-4. Stayed that way into the ninth when here he comes. Emmanuel Clase slams the door in the ninth. Guards a winner today. 5-4 your final. They win their 4th straight road series. They're cooking with gas. NFL draft 1 week from tonight. 3 straight years now, the Browns do not have a first-round pick. They traded them all for Deshaun Watson. Andrew Berry doesn't seem too concerned about it.
The reality of the first-round picks, like the league rate hit rate, is like 50%. They're lottery tickets. They're good lottery tickets at the end of the day, and highly, highly valuable. But even if you have a first-round pick, it's certainly not a certain thing. We feel pretty good about where the roster sits today, and but look, we are looking forward to having one back next year for sure.
So they still have their second. The last 2 years they have traded back.
Right.
So I don't. Right now they're scheduled to be on the clock at 54. Will they have that pick? I don't know.
I don't know. It's always fun, the draft.
I love the draft. It's one of my favorite things to cover, and it doesn't even involve a game.
Right. I know.
More anticipation of it all. Okay, we'll be right back with a final check of your forecast.
19 News first, fair, everywhere. Now your 19 First Alert forecast, certified most accurate since 2004.
All right, finishing up our coverage out here in Windham in eastern Portage County, where last night an EF1 tornado did touch down, considerable damage, but as we've talked about all afternoon and evening, nobody hurt. Thank God for that. Here's a look at our First Alert 7-day double weekend forecast. Now, the weekend looks okay, but it's chilly. Temperatures only in the low 50s. We could even have some frost around late Sunday into Monday, late Saturday into Sunday as well. A little warm up towards the middle of the week, and then the double weekend shows the following weekend. We're getting close to May here. Temperatures back into the upper 60s to near 70. It's important to point out, looking at this forecast, not a lot in the way of severe weather, so that is certainly good news, especially for folks here as the cleanup continues.
All right, well, we certainly feel for everybody that's going through that. I have a little idea how that works, and it is not fun, so we wish the best for you.